Siren.
Yeah.
And you are. We just beat Egan last Friday, so
Good job.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Prior Lake Savage Board of Education. If you would all stand as you are able and join us in the pledge.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all members are present, so we will start the evening with Laker Pride. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you so much, Chair White, Board of Directors. I think it was about a month or so ago I gave a little tongue-in-cheek joke here from the dais about the 80s band Foreigner with high-top fades, Aquanet hairspray, and blue eyeshadow. Didn't go over so well, with our young folks, but I think many in the adults understand that. But tonight, we want to recognize our Prior Lake High School students that performed on stage with rock legends Foreigner during the Lakefront Music Fest in this past July. And under the direction of Randy Erlinson and Rob Hahn, I'm always thrilled to listen to our students on a variety of fronts. One of my faves is listen to the choir, and so we want to recognize all of them tonight. And Rob and Randy, I see Rob. Oh, where's Randy? Oh, there she is. You get that a lot, don't you?
I do, actually.
That's not the first time.
So, on behalf of all of us, I want to just say thank you for doing us all proud. And I'm glad you had this great honor to get on stage to look before thousands of folks from the community, not just Prior Lake Savage, but literally from all over the state and probably in the region, to watch this band, but also to listen to you all sing as that wonderful choir component to that song. So, and to the both of you, you're amazing leaders in our district, as always. Thank you so much for what you two do.
you.
Thank you.
And here I've got all the stacks of
Perfect.
certificates. And if you want to say a few words, feel free, and then we're going to huddle up somehow
Sweet.
Perfect.
up front here for a group photo.
We're actually short. This is about half of the kids that sang. We had
Yeah.
25 on stage. So there's the crew. Beforehand, we had call time for our sound check when we didn't get to go on stage at like 3:30. But we didn't take the stage till 11, 10 o'clock, 10:30. Like,
That sounds about it.
it was pretty crazy to, be in a festival like that and cut kids loose and go, okay, at the drum solo, we'll meet you right here. And they handled it beautifully. They met us exactly where they should have. We all got our backstage passes, which is a fun little sticker of someone walking their kid. And let's see, so the pictures from backstage, the view most people don't ever get to see, what 16,000 audience members looks like. And then, of course, we pivot around. Randy and I are kind of right there behind that console, and the kids are out on stage. Pretty cool. Kelly Hansen, lead singer, still. He's leaving the group sometime this month. Talking to the band, singing. And we've even got a video clip if you'd like to hear a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. Let's cross fingers that this goes. Let's see. We'll just jump. It's like 4.5 minutes, so we'll spare you a little bit. So video footage courtesy of some parents who were right there in that front pit area.
They could also sing along with this.
And we surely could.
Take the cue, guys.
But I mean, to me, that's it right there. When you've got pictures of these faces up on the big jumbotron screens with nothing but smiles. You'd say it's once in a lifetime, but it's actually the second time we've had kids sing with Foreigner. So when they called, they knew that we had done it before. They knew exactly when and where.
We sang it out at
reinvited us
Mystic Lake
at Mystic.
when they were here in 2016.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty crazy to get that phone call.
Important, I think, to note that these guys didn't get a chance to practice on the stage beforehand. So they didn't get to walk out there and figure out, here's where you're gonna stand, here's what you're gonna do. It was just line up and go, and they just handled it so beautifully, so.
And a learning experience for us too. When I watch that video, I see all the smiles, but I also see very proper choir kids standing with excellent posture. Someone should have let them know that they could have a little more fun than that on stage. That would have been great.
Is to remind everybody and bring attention to the lack of funding for school music programs. That's right. Far too often, the first programs that are cut are music and the arts, and that's a sad, sad thing. Yes. Because music and the arts help you reach outside of your local world to different parts of the world, to different places in time. It exposes you to thoughts and feelings that you might never have in your hometown, and that's a good thing. And so please contact your local politicians, your school board, your teachers, make a donation.
I mean, he said we were supposed to contact you, so I had to play. I'm just following directions, you know?
I mean, when the lead singer of Foreigner says to
I
do something, you
suppose.
probably should just do it.
You just do what the guy tells you, right?
Um,
But yeah,
So, really proud of our students as always. They just represent so well, and we didn't practice over the summer. We just all appeared at Lakefront that day and did our thing, and it was a really awesome experience. So, yeah, congratulations to you guys.
awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Please come forward for a group.
If you guys want to sing a little bit while you're getting your picture taken, I wouldn't, I don't think anybody would care.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can sing on your way out.
Let it go.
Go.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Thomas.
All right, thank you again. Of course, the biggest news to report on is the welcoming back of all of our students into our schools last week, and this is our first full week of school, so the first couple of days were great. We got all our kids here, and we got all our kids home, and they returned today. So that's a good thing, and really a big thank you. Last Friday, this week we'll start My Fridays 5. Last week was just a big thank you email to all of our staff for making it such a wonderful launch, and really leaning into this whole theme that we have this year about growing to succeed. And really how we can take care of one another. That's something that was centered on our kickoff this year, and again, just very evident going into our schools, into the community, that the love of having that energy of students is definitely real, and it reminds you of our why every single day. So thank you to all of our staff who made it a successful launch, and looking forward to the year together. And then also I ride the bus every year. It's been a tradition of mine since being here. And this year, Leah was our bus driver, and I rode the Hamilton Ridge route, and it sounds like I was in your neck of the woods, and
You were in my
maybe
neighborhood.
a couple of others have emailed me, and just full disclosure, I should have asked for what his name was, but the Chicago Bears parent, it was his house. That is the stop. And so I hope he's at home getting ready to watch the Bears lose. Well, that's right. We have another Bears fan in the house. But yeah, it was definitely a great opportunity to build community. Dr. Anderson got a chance to ride along as well, and just kind of see what that fun is all about. And it's so fun to watch the excitement of kids coming onto the bus that first day. So thank you to everybody who made that an extra special day. Coming up, our annual State of the District, September 24th at 6 o'clock here at the DSC. and also be looking out many of our families. You'll be dialing in shortly thereafter for your State of the Schools, and then all of that will be also archived. Schools will have that uploaded on their websites, so be looking for that. And then just as a placeholder for our community, more information coming soon, but just a little teaser message, if you will. But we are looking at different ways to engage our community. That was some of the conversations that we had at the end of the year, just for me, in terms of the superintendent and ways that we can really deepen those community partnerships. And so we are looking at bringing, instead of our typical state of the district, I think we're going to change it up a little bit and find ways that we can do a little bit more of an engagement and a conversation with our broader community and some of our electeds, our local electeds, so that we have a broader kind of ecological discussion about the importance of education and the impacts that are occurring around education, and what can we as a community do to make sure that we can bolster the greatest opportunities for our kids as they go throughout our school system. So once we firm that up more, we'll share the dates and things of that nature, but it'll be coming up at the very end of October, possibly no later than the first week or so of November. So stay tuned for that. And that is my report for tonight, Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Thomas. Moving on to proclamations. The first one is School Board Recognition Month. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you so much. So first we'll go ahead and play this little video for you all, and then I'll share some.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for helping me too.
Build for my future.
Get ready for my career. Prepare to serve my country.
To succeed on the court.
In the science lab.
And on the stage.
You are a role model for kids like me.
We need your voice to help strengthen our voice.
So I will read the resolution. Whereas Prior Lake Savage Area Schools recognizes the importance of public education in our community, and whereas Prior Lake Savage Area Schools appreciates the vital role played by those individuals who, as local school board members, establish policies to ensure an efficient, effective school system, and whereas school board members serve as a voice that enables our community to preserve local management and control of our public schools, and whereas school board members are charged with representing our local education interests to state and federal governments and ensuring compliance with state and federal laws, and whereas school board members selflessly devote their knowledge, time, and talents as advocates for our school children, whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now therefore be it resolved that Prior Lake Savage Area Schools recognizes and salutes the members of the Prior Lake Savage Area School Board by proclaiming September 2025 as School Board Appreciation Month. And on behalf of all the staff here in Prior Lake Savage Area Schools, I just want to offer my sincere gratitude for each of you. You all bring unique, valuable perspectives to the role, including our students as well. And the work that you are called to do is way bigger than you as individuals, and quite frankly, in this day and age, almost way bigger than the board as a body. But what I appreciate about all of you is that you know when and where and how to lean into what is right for kids, and that's something that I really want to just say thank you and encourage you to continue doing, because without you, a lot of what we do in our district would not be accomplished. So thank you so much for all of what you do. And in the spirit of tonight, I'm going to ask that you all come forward, and yep, you'll have to take your nice photo shoot. I think I have these in alpha order.
I'll be in front row though, because
It's all people in the back.
height advantage. So.
You're new, but But you're still part of the student rep. Okay. There you go.
Jen, nice and close here. Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. And our second proclamation will be for IT Professionals Appreciation Week. And if Marcus wants to make his way forward, I'll have Director Bullion read the proclamation.
Prior Lake Savage Area Schools recognizes September 15th through 19th, 2025 as IT Professionals Appreciation Week. IT professionals play an integral role in keeping our networks and applications running smoothly. This week, we celebrate our thanks and gratitude for these essential staff. Whereas Prior Lake Savage Area Schools has 14 DSC IT staff members. Whereas IT professionals support and manage devices in our district that students and staff depend on daily, including iPads, MacBook Airs, Apple TVs, desktop computers, projectors, telephones, and wireless access points. Whereas IT professionals manage and ensure the safety and security of our network, servers, and infrastructure, and follow practices that keep children safe online in education. Whereas IT professionals provide technical support to staff and students across our district, including but not limited to classroom, audiovisual, account setup and maintenance, mobile device and phone management, and hardware software licensing. Whereas our district print shop professionals provide well-organized and efficient printing operations for the district by operating high-speed, high-capacity copiers, industrial cutters, and other miscellaneous equipment, along with organizing and processing materials at the curriculum repository. Therefore, let it be resolved, the Board of Education hereby extends its appreciation to all Prior Lake Savage Area Schools IT professionals for supporting the education of our students and staff, and proclaims September 15th through 19th, 2025 to be IT Professionals Appreciation Week in Prior Lake Savage Area Schools.
Marcus.
Chair White, Board Directors, Dr. Thomas, Marcus Milazzo, Director of Technology. I have prepared a brief statement. On behalf of the Prior Lake Savage Area Schools Technology Department, I would like to express our profound gratitude to the school board for acknowledging IT Professionals Appreciation Week. This recognition inspires the department to excel in supporting educational programs and all stakeholders. Their responsiveness, empathy, accountability, and commitment to lifelong learning sets them apart. I'm honored to lead this team, and I thank the school board for recognizing their contributions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, moving down, there are no open forum speakers this evening, so we'll move down to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So made.
By Director Bullion, second.
Second.
By Director Atkinson. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries 7-0. Next is the consent agenda. These are items that are routine in nature to be enacted with one motion. If there is no one at the table or in the audience that would like to pull a item for separate discussion and action, I will entertain a motion to take action on the consent agenda as presented. By Director Franz, second.
Second.
By Director Mason. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 7-0. Next is a resolution for acceptance of gifts, and we have two gifts this evening. We have a gift of $500 from the Prior Lake Savage Optimists for a back-to-school event, as well as $617.50 for summer band scholarships from the patrons of the arts and activities. I'll entertain a motion to accept these gifts with gratitude.
So made.
By Director Bullion.
Second.
By Director Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call. I even had it written down here, seriously. Director Olsted.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Atkinson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director Franz.
Aye.
And Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye. That carries 7-0. Moving down to personnel items. 25-26 Kids Company paraprofessionals. Director Cothern.
Thank you, Chair White and directors. So there's 3 positions that will added in the memos were in the board, but I will summarize the 3 of them. The first one being an additional 4,000 hours to our Kids Company paraprofessionals. They request an additional 4,000 hours for 9-month Kids Company paraprofessionals. Includes both expanded hours for the existing staff and new positions during the school year, totaling 3.16 FTE. Kids Company has multiple students enrolled in the 25-26 school year program that will require a higher level of support. Without additional staffing, the program may not be able to adequately support all students' needs, and the associated costs will be covered by the O4 Community Service Fund. The second position is for the Laker Learning Tutoring Program, and the district requests approval to expand the Laker Learning Tutoring Program to include qualified tutors beyond our district current staff. This change is proposed due to limited internal interest and the ongoing need to provide academic support for our students. This expansion will help add to our pool of tutors and ensure that students continue to receive support through the Laker Learning Tutoring Program, and these costs will be covered by the user fees that are charged for the services. And then the last one is an additional 9th grade football coach. The increase in participants has created a need for an additional coaching position funded by the Booster Club, and the Booster Club has confirmed their agreement to cover the cost, which includes estimated taxes and benefits costs for this position.
All right, thank you. Martha, do I have to take these individually, or can we do them as one motion? Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion, first of all, to accept the increase in the paraprofessional hours as presented.
So made.
By Director Bullion, second.
Second.
By Director Franz. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 7-0. And now I'll entertain a motion to accept the increased cost for the Laker Learner Tutoring Program.
So made.
By Director Bullion, second. By Director Johnson. Any discussion?
I just had a quick question on that one. Will we be posting this out like on the careers page, and how will we share this out with our community, I guess, to help recruit for that?
Yes, this will be something that we will put out in terms of our broader communities, should they have interest. We would also be looking to entertain with professional tutoring organizations as well, that may be local, maybe metro-wide. So it's a combination of both.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you know of folks who are interested, please have them reach out directly to Joel Dahl, the Executive Director of Community Ed.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's no more discussion or questions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And then finally, I'll entertain a motion to accept the increased staffing for the 9th grade football team. Is it by Director Johnson, second.
Second.
By Director Franz. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries at 7-0. Moving, there's no unfinished business, and so we will move down to a business services update. Director Ryder.
This afternoon, we received the email from MDE that provides us with the information regarding our levy documents. So they are now posted to the Minnesota Department of Education website. And they have noted that there are some areas that they're still working through, such as the approval of long-term facility maintenance plans that districts have submitted, and a few other areas too that they're just needing a little more time. So there is a scheduled discussion tomorrow with our MASBEL group and MDE, where we will walk through the entire levy document and be able to just ask our questions to them as if we see something that looks off. So it's the beginning of the process of us reviewing that document that then we want to make sure is accurate and as close to perfect as possible by the end of the month. And in the meantime, oftentimes districts will approve at a maximum, which gives that flexibility should there be a calculation that's wrong at the state level or something else of that nature, that it can still be adjusted before the final that you would then take approval of in December. So that would be my expectation, is that we would be bringing forward that suggestion for approval of the preliminary certified levy for September at just the maximum amount. And that will be coming at the next meeting. So that's the update on the levy certification discussion. Moving on to the audit, we're still finalizing some of our key points on the audit, and particularly GASB 101, which is a new GASB we must comply with. So that's still in the works. And then our enrollment update, we have included in your board packet the kindergarten enrollments, similar to what we've done in the past weeks. I've updated for the last 2 weeks since our last time we talked about this. We are now at what we would think would be 100%, right? At the time of August 29th when this was pulled. And at that point in time, we were 7 behind where we are budgeted at 533 for kindergarten and 26 below that, which was last year at this time. So, so that is, actually 26 below that, which was last year's October. Keep in mind, we still have time to have numbers change on us, right? So the October count is intended to be a fall count that is those students enrolled as of that date. But we still report to the state all the way up till December 31st on adjustments. And then it gets finalized as fall, okay? So that's how that works. And then the other document included in your packet is the continuation of taking note of where we are for our 24-25, the year ended, that we're auditing, and comparing it to the months that we've seen for head counts at the top from October through June. And then I just filled in the September 2nd line item. You can see the numbers are still very similar to what they've been, so we're holding tight to that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Lisa? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda are the 2025-26 board committee rosters for the Policy Advisory Committee and the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee. I'll entertain a motion to accept the rosters as submitted. By Director Bullion, second.
Second.
By Director Olsted. Discussion.
I just have a couple questions. Similar to how we explained on the Finance Committee, if someone could maybe just comment on like the skill sets that we were looking for both policy and teaching and learning and what we were targeting.
Sure. I'll let the respective executive directors just speak to like skill sets unique to their areas. But overall, first I want to just say thank you to the teams. We are bringing greater alignment to our committee work, as I shared a couple of weeks ago with the board. The committees represent a good cross-section of our community from varying perspectives, community members at large, parents, elementary, secondary, et cetera. And one of the things that as a management team we are committed to doing is really leaning into the roles of our said committees because they are representative. And so a lot of our engagement touch points with community will be coming through those committees. And I think the key aspect for us is that we ensure that the committee members, our community, understands the ask that we have of participating in this work. All the committees had about 25-ish or so, give or take, applicants. And so there's a lot of interest from our community to be involved. It's one of the areas that I really appreciate about this community. We saw the same thing with our strategic plan process as well. And for that, or because of that, I just want to also remind our community and our folks who are coming on to these committees, this is a commitment that we are asking of you. And it's not a commitment that we take lightly. It's a two-way street. And we want to make sure that as folks are coming aboard, lending perspectives, that you are providing your kind of personal, local, immediate experiences with the various topics that each committee will be discussing. And that we want to make sure that you are there. That's another piece I just want to stress as well. That's one of the areas that we noticed over the years is that, we understand life happens, but this is also something that we've been very upfront and public about when we post for the openings on these committees of what that commitment will entail. And so I just ask folks to please stay in tune, with the administrator that is assigned to leading with that board rep on that committee, so that should life happen, that you're being in constant contact with one of the three executives, directors, and in two cases, two of our directors, because Director Powers does that along with Lisa Ryder for the finance and ops components. So we're really excited about that. I also want to thank all of our board reps for your work in leaning into this. And I know that we postponed a couple of the conversations till this evening so that we could best align our processes, as well as ensure that moving forward we had some consistent practices. So I do apologize about that delay. But again, thank you, Mary France, Jessica Olsted, and Amy and Charles, and then both of your committees. I know Robert was a little hung up in jury duty, so we couldn't get the convenings together yet. So that's the reason why we delayed that one. But I think what we have is some very robust committees. So I'll turn it over to the three of you if you want to just talk a little bit about the process of what you were looking for, specifically where we might have had some gaps, and kind of what rose to the tops in terms of some of your selection.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Thomas and Chair White and directors. Just to underscore the point made by the superintendent, lots of interest in serving on these committees, and that's a strength of the community to have folks who want to be involved. So was pleased to see that level of interest. Whenever we look at a committee roster or a roster to fulfill a task like teaching and learning, we're looking for a cross-section of expertise, interest, and experiences that represent the wide swath of pre-K through 21 across all the sites, and to represent each of the levels. And so looking at the interests, experiences, and expertise of folks, we tried to strike a balance across those lists of criteria. And pleased to say that interest yielded strong candidates. So I look forward to working with the committee and with the liaisons to teaching and learning to navigate all the things that we must do as a part of that. So I appreciated the opportunity to work with board members and fill out that roster.
Thank you. For the policy committee, I think one of the things, once again, just we had 25 applicants, all strong applicants. One of the things that when I met with a couple of the directors, we got input from Director Johnson on kind of how he processed some of those, and then I met with Director Bullion and the superintendent to look through some of the applicants. For me, one of the things, I kind of look at it as a team, and I wanted to put together the strongest team possible, understanding where my weaknesses are as well. And so I looked at, I felt that either legal or policy experience was critical in having somebody on the policy committee, and we were fortunate to have a lot of people that had some of those backgrounds. So the two individuals that we selected seemed to have strong either policy background or legal background to help us fulfill what I understand to be a very strong team. So I'm excited to work with these people and get to know them better and lead the policy committee.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think just a second comment to just some feedback that we have gotten from prior committee members. I think it would be really great to just have, I haven't attended like teaching and learning, for example, but I think the feedback was just trying to get some consistency and making sure that these are advisory committees versus just, presenting to them and them not being in a place where they felt they had time or feedback to give, right? It was more just presenting to. So I know we're trying on the finance committee also to try and really make it collaborative, and that we're actually utilizing these people for their advisory and for their strong skill sets, hopefully, that we're bringing to the table. So just wanted to share that. I think it's important for all of us across the board to take that into consideration.
I would echo that, which is also why we changed the format halfway through the year with teaching and learning as a direct response to feedback along the way. So I want it to be known that the second portion of the year, I think was a bit more hands-on, sleeves rolled up, engaging in actual artifacts as well as kind of professional development, and then doing some table learning sessions together, ultimately building some capacity of the team so that they could apply that learning into the actual work. So that is something that, as a superintendent, I want to make sure we have great consistency across all, because I thought that was a really good format. We heard that that was a good format as well. And so we'll do a little bit of both. There's going to be some kind of information data sharing, but then we also want our committee members to understand that you bring vantage points that will differ from many of ours, you know, as the leaders within the organization or on the board, and they can bring that kind of lived experience. And I kind of liken it to looking at a blueprint, and it could be the best design, but you know, the builder understands the topography in the land, in the soil, and says, "Great idea, but in the field, it's not going to really work." So I think it's a both-and approach that I think the executive team is committed to taking on. And again, to echo my colleagues here, I look forward to engaging with our community on all of these committees. So thank you all for your participation in advance.
Any other discussion or questions? All right. Amy, go ahead.
On the committee purpose statements that are presented in the board book, under teaching and learning and the policy advisory committee, there is language stating, like under teaching and learning advisory committee, the last sentence of the first paragraph says, TLAC members also serve as important liaisons, fostering strong communication between the school district and stakeholders. Something similar is also in the policy advisory committee. It's worded just a little bit different. It says policy advisory committee members also help strengthen communication between the district and stakeholders. And then the rest of that sentence. In the finance and operations advisory committee, there isn't really a sentence like that. And I'm wondering if we could take one or the other. I think it's an important sentence that everyone, you know, on these committees, they are liaisons to stakeholders in our community. So I just thought maybe we could add that in there.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's something we can talk about tomorrow morning to weave that in. And again, I think what we're just trying to convey from different vantage points, you know, the importance of that connection, you know, with our committee as to the district. So, yeah, we can be a little bit more explicit in that.
And just to be clear, we're voting on the rosters only.
Just the rosters.
So that the finance committee
feedback for the
can
finance
probably do that if they feel like it's warranted.
Yeah, and Director Bullen, I really appreciate that. That brings to mind just, I'd like to have a better understanding of, how do you say, what type of consistencies we can see from committee to committee, because I know that's been one of the challenges in the past, is that different committees have been utilized in different ways. And so with our new team, our new executive team on board, I'd love to better understand how we're going to see consistencies across the board with these advisory committees, maybe how they're structured, how the feedback is given to the board, different perspectives represented in the feedback, that type of thing. So.
Yeah, I think those are good points of feedback. And, you know, I think between the calibration with the administrative reps and the board reps, in reflecting on how that meeting went, kind of what are our takeaways and our report outs, so that we can have that constant. I think that was brought up during your board goals as well.
So that'll be a
proposed
goal coming up in a few minutes.
So I think that's already being woven in, and I think there's great intentionality. You know, the team has been working very closely around this as a new leadership team. Dan Powers bringing on the operational perspective to the finance ops component as well. So I think between our connection points with the board liaisons, with some agreed upon structures of when we launch our committee meetings, and then even a formal structure for how we have an exit ticket out. So what are the key takeaways? So, you know, one of the things that we did with the strategic planning process, if you all recall, you know, if you participated, we wanted our community to be champions of Prior Lake Savage Area School. And so what was that thing that they were taking back to the community from the session that they attended that day? And so just being more intentional, I think Director Atkinson and team, in terms of what are our agreed upon takeaways, so that through the board reports, as well as kind of where we land. One of the things I was just sharing with a couple of our staff members at a school was, the tighter we can get on our conditions of satisfaction, meaning the agreements when we leave the meeting, so that we're not walking away, I'm thinking this is what we're going to do, others are thinking it's something different, and we're both going in our separate ways, doing what we believe is the good work, and then we find when we come back, we were working at odds with one another, unintentionally. So again, really being clear around those conditions of satisfaction, and calibrating, as board and leadership, moving forward, I think will be great. I think also, I'll just kind of stop with this, is the one, also having some leveled expectations up front. As you all recall, when you bring divergent perspectives together, sometimes they can bump a little bit, okay? And that's okay. We had that throughout the strategic planning process too. But there's ways that we can still have differing perspectives, but hold a level of regard and respect for one another. And that's something that we'll be making sure that gets normed on day one. We have those agreements within the charter statements, but we also had some that governed a lot of our strategic planning process that we utilize in a lot of our things. And then lastly, as we close out the year, I think having a unified way to exit out. And so we get that intentional design of feedback across every committee, so that we can collate, the information that we garner from every committee. And not every committee is going to be cookie cutter, right? I mean, it's the nuance of the topic, it's the art of leadership, and the styles that you all bring to the conversations as board members. So, I'm not looking for this automaton approach to how we do the meetings, but I think we've put in some good stopgaps to have a consistent effort moving forward, to ensure that as a board, you all are seeing the value add of these committees assigned to the board, that as leadership, we are going off to facilitate on behalf of the board. So hope that answers the question.
All right. Thank you. Mary.
I want to kind of go with, and I know that we're only voting on the rosters today, but the charter, the purpose and all that, to make sure each of the administrators in particular are establishing and coordinating on the rules of engagement for these committees, right, to make sure that the outcomes are what they are, as well as the rules of engagement for when differing opinions come to play. And understanding what is expected of each of the committee members in a little bit more of a discrete way in each of these areas of the purpose, so that when community members come in, anybody comes in for that matter, that is very well stated and that is being followed.
Yeah. I would just echo that, Director France, and I couldn't stress that enough. We can disagree, but we don't need to be disagreeable with one another. And I think that's part of that value add, on the front side. And so when we find ourselves at somewhat of an impasse, on how we might see certain things, there's ways that we can effectively work through that. A couple of you have said on multiple occasions, what we model here in the boardroom should be, good models for our classroom. And the same with our committee work. What we do in committee, we should not be ashamed of having a student sitting right there, and watching and observing that whole interaction, right? Because we're setting the stage for what we're expecting them to go into. They are our future leaders. So I couldn't agree more. So as we've talked a little bit about the team, as a team, and knowing that it's going to be important to level set, no matter if it's community, parent, or staff members. We're all held to a standard, of decorum to lead effectively together. So thank you for that.
There's no more discussion. We have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, next, we have a curricular resources report from the LEI team. Dr. Thomas, do you want to do introductions?
Yeah, thank you. As the team gets ready to set up for the discussion, just want to let the board know, we will be having a deeper kind of work study session with you all in just a couple of weeks. That is more of our traditional approach. That's usually about the time frame that we've done it. But we know that the MCAs were released and there's some conversation about that. We wanted to just honor and acknowledge that a little bit here tonight. More so, we wanted to focus some of the conversation around some of the curricular resources that are more pressing, that as a result of what we see in our data. So, you all have seen the same information that we've been seeing. We see that essentially we have a lot of flatness into our data. I think we're seeing that mirrored at the state. We're above the state, but nonetheless, we seem to be overall flat on an aggregate. We have peaks and valleys around various grade levels and departments that we can dig more into. Our teams are working with our builds right now as they're finalizing their school goals too. So a more robust discussion around kind of what does this all mean. We'll be digging into this in just a couple of weeks with you all. But we wanted to give a little foreshadow to some of that tonight because some of that preliminary theme that you're seeing or hearing about and talking about, you're probably hearing from some of our staff who are going to be looking at some MDE-approved aligned READ Act resources this year. That's some of the things that we wanted to really focus in on because we'll be exploring a couple of READ Act resources, as well as exploring a couple of high school specific math resources that we will align to both statute as well as the incoming standards coming up here. So more will be coming throughout the year with you all on these, but we wanted to give that introduction because we'll be sharing out information to the families next week here, or no, later on this week, I think, notifying them of some of the resources that we'll be exploring together and then getting some intentional feedback around some of these resources, both here at the board level, posting opportunities either here and or schools so that families can interact and take a look at these resources. Curriculum nights with our teachers as well. So a lot of that will be happening, in the first quarter or two. And then having that mid-year kind of status update to you all to see how is this exploration going, what are we learning from this, and then from there making some determinations as to what would a spring conversation look like as we go to make a recommendation for you to take some action as we typically do in like an adoption cycle that would be for new implementation for next fall. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Zumbush, who will start the conversation a little bit about what we're seeing of the what, and then some preliminary now what's around some resources that we know we need to launch for exploration, and then, like I said, going deeper in a couple of weeks.
Good evening, Chair White, Dr. Thomas, members of the board. I'm going to start by just talking about some of the data really high level, and then we're going to move on to kind of the now what conversation. I know there was a question about specific numbers associated with these lines because the dots on here are not labeled. That is just the way that they come from MDE. But I also wanted to just pull up these slides in the data appendix that show a little more detail so I can give you the exact numbers. So in math, in 2024, our overall proficiency rate was 58.0. This year is 57.7, so that's a difference of 0.3 percentage points. Looking at reading, last year we went from 59.7 to 59.8. So to Dr. Thomas's earlier point, really when we're looking at these overall, that is a flat trend for both of those. As you can see in the data appendix, I broke down all of the results by demographic group and grade level, and you can feel free to look through all of those charts. If you also go to the MDE report card, you can just Google Minnesota report card and click there. You can further drive down into results and see by school school and grade level. You can basically click on almost infinite different combinations of ways to look at the data. So if you're interested in exploring that further, that is all publicly available at this time. So, yeah, overall, the story is that we have flat trend lines for both our overall math and reading outcome data. In terms of our graduation rate data, there was some questions about the fact that we noticed a decrease in our graduation rate last year. Just as a recollection, graduation rates are lagged by a year because it takes a year to track students as in terms of whether they show up in another location. So this is for 2024, but that is the most recent graduation data that we have currently. The blue line here shows the percentage of students graduating in a 4-year rate. You can see that we did experience a decline from 23 to 24. But the other thing that we found as we dug into this and talked to counselors at the high school and other individuals involved in graduation and special education staff, we learned that there was quite a number of students who simply needed more time in our system. So if you look at the red graph here, you can see the percentage of students who graduated or continued learning with us. And if you look at that graph, we did not experience a change. So in a lot of systems, we talk about not only a 4-year graduation rate, but a 5, 6, or even 7-year graduation rate. And here you can see that while our graduation rate in and of itself for 4 years declined, it was a matter of a group of students needing additional time in our system, and they did stay on with us. We also have anecdotal evidence that since that time they have graduated, so they maybe just need another quarter or semester or something like that to get over that finish line. There's been questions about FastBridge in terms of what trends did we see there. I just wanted to remind everyone that FastBridge is a formative assessment and it's designed to give teacher feedback. It's not designed to give aggregate results. That's really the purpose of the MCA. Even in that case, I think it's good to take a look and see if we can identify themes and trends and see which direction they're going. And I would say overall, what we see in our FastBridge data is that it's widely varied. So I think you have just a lot of different experiences at different schools, different grade levels, different contexts. So overall, there's not a clear pattern in any sort of like clear and distinctive direction. But one of the things we did look into when we studied the implementation of fidelity of bridges is that the individuals who had the highest fidelity in terms of their implementation of the curricular resource also showed high FastBridge growth in math and also had higher MCA results. So saw that upward trajectory in both FastBridge and MCA. FastBridge and MCA are correlated, but not entirely predictive. So getting a high FastBridge score and showing growth is predictive of MCAs, but it doesn't tell us exactly where that student is going to land. So it's not a one-to-one correlation, but the information that's being measured in FastBridge gives us some indication whether that student is on track to meet that proficiency rate in MCA. We did look at our specific data and we saw that correlation as well. And then our reading data really confirms the need for that ongoing science of reading training. We just see a wide variety. We know that our resources are not aligned with science of reading, so we really see that we need to focus on that continued professional development and selecting and implementing a curricular resource that is aligned with the science of reading. So that's the high-level flyover of our data, and then I will pass it over for next steps.
Thank you, Dr. Zumbush. I can't help it, given that part of my charge is to represent teaching and learning. One of the strategies we use when an educator or a learner shares something of value to us, at least sometimes, is to snap. And I'm just going to test, do you have an appetite for this? Could we snap for Dr. Zumbush, for Can we try it? Some of you are less comfortable, which is totally understandable. So thanks, Dr. Thomas, Board Chair White, directors, and those in attendance. One of the things we're charged to do, in addition to looking at that high-level data and then consider what are some next steps we might take, is to also be aligning our materials and our practices with requirements from the state. We're also charged to think through systemic implementation and tend to things like vertical articulation, make sure we're aligned to state standards, and of course position ourselves to pivot to deliver in new MCA tests that are coming. And so as a contextual cue and reminder for us, the state curriculum guidance comes from a 10-year cycle. And believe it or not, these math standards have been in practice since 2007, and in 2022, the state updated those. They updated those and gave us a longer timeline because they knew this would be a next level, next generation of rigor for students, that pivoting with just a simple new curricular resource alone wouldn't be easy. The way that we have to attack the level of thinking required by these new math standards would take time to build the capacity of educators to deliver, and that's in part the reason for this timeline. So new standards approved in 2022, but not fully implemented and measured until 27-28. And so they have other prescriptions. One pulled out for your consideration tonight is that instruction at the high school level must include all the required 2022 mathematics standards and benchmarks for grades 9-11. It's not a small thing, and it deserves investment of time and training. Our current status, as you can see, is that in our teaching and learning spaces, we are monitoring and assessing formatively and summatively standards and positioning ourselves to do so in alignment with the new standards. Previously, before now, this system undertook K through 8 adoption processes, and those materials are positioned us to make this transition. We're in the middle of the transition from the 2007 asks of how we do teaching and learning to the 2022. And so educators are working to do that, and Dr. Zimbush talked about so far, we think better results where implementation is better in our system. And high school math materials are not aligned very well to the new standards at all, and in some cases behind even the 2007 status, and they're 15 years old in most cases. And so we're going to do this next work to do the vertical alignment so that we're positioned at the high school level to do the same thing that has been done at K-8, and that is to align to these new standards and the new MCAs. Now, the high school math process is last in our system based on a number of things. It's a phased approach predicated in part by constraints like limited budget. Many systems will do a K-12 math or curricular adoption in 1 year. Some systems will do K-6 or K-5 in one phase, and then the next year do 6-12, partly because some curricular areas are even more difficult. Math can be one of those. And sometimes because, like in our case, we didn't have resources to stretch us in 1 year to 2 years. We stretched our resources and had to over 3 years. So our process was at the high school level, truncated, not truncated, extended for some of those reasons. So in the spring of 2023, the math committee and teachers studied different materials. Staff attended presentations about each of these curricular resources, and then in 2024-25, that high school math team and committee members narrowed resources and agreed to have Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 teachers have some access to some curricular materials they believe are aligned to these new standards, and some did use those materials in that fashion. In the spring of 2025, this last spring, the high school teacher consensus was to field test for the 25-26 school year And so the intention is that we'll be working to, as a system, make a decision after first semester and begin planning for full implementation for 26-27. Again, that's in alignment with the state 10-year curriculum revision cycle timeline. And so this process includes field tests, again, for visual purposes at the high school level, which is the third in our 3 phases of math adoption. Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 will be using the SAVIS curricular resources in a field test manner. And that includes the classes listed there, and as well as Advanced Math 8 at the middle school level. Another way to think about the timeline is using this graphic. So in 24-25, there was further exploration of high school math curriculum materials. There was confirmation from and consensus of high school math teachers to do the SAVIS field test in 25-26, and then use that field test to try to drive to a curriculum decision. As a part of that, and as I understand our process requires, letters will be sent out to, or communication sent out to families. Materials will be available for community feedback and review starting as soon as this week. And feedback loops, including the aforementioned Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee, on which 2 board members sit, to interact with, provide feedback around, and otherwise support phase 3 of this math adoption. It follows then that we would be driving towards full implementation of a new resource year 1, 26-27, year 2, 27-28, and recall that's when the state will start measuring these new standards that were adopted in 2022, and then year 3, where those student achievement MCA goals, or those SAGs that we use shorthand for in our system, will be utilized. So that's on the math side. We're talking about math resources and the curriculum adoption process as one of the things we do in response to state standards, updated state statute, and certainly results that we're getting or not getting to the degree that we want. The second area that we want to highlight tonight as a curricular update for the purposes of tonight is around, as we forecasted, elementary literacy. And in that same manner, as we align to state statute and state law, in this case the READ Act, these are some of those contextual cues that help situate us where we are as a system. So the contextual reminders are summarized there. We just pulled out a few for your consideration tonight. This READ Act was passed in July of 2023. And one of the key signature high-level requirements of that READ Act was that we have to consider and integrate all of these things into the curricular adoption process. It's not that we wouldn't consider or integrate these things into a traditional curriculum adoption, but it is that this is a even more robust set of requirements than we've ever seen. And it's taking a lot of time, and it's taking a lot of resources, and it's taking a lot of bandwidth. So at a time when we want to do some high-stakes math implementation, concurrently at the elementary level, we've got to do some high-stakes literacy implementation. We're not the only ones doing it, but in our context, it's definitely just as difficult as in other places, and in some cases, I would submit even harder given that we have some other constraints. So you can see in the bottom bullet, the district must provide this robust training from a menu of approved evidence-based training programs aligned to state requirements. We have been doing that. Teachers are working and have been working very hard to do so, and our district staff has been working hard to try to line up to support both their work and the work of principals who are charged to monitor and support this stuff. And so I'd like to invite up Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Caroline Warner, to share a little bit about that training and a little bit about that ELA committee process as we've worked really hard to align to these updated state statutes.
All right, good evening. So to reiterate and just maybe highlight a little bit more is to look at that training specific to OLA. So that is brought to us, and we have a high number of staff who have who have completed that foundational training. So the excitement around having a shared base of knowledge, we have a large group of our staff that have already completed that this summer. We have our remaining staff who will complete 5 through 9, so there are 9 full modules for that. They will complete that this year, and then new staff that we invited in this year also have that same, that is, remember that legislated requirement by June of 2026 to make sure that we have that foundational learning, all 9 of those modules for our staff to be able to be done by this school year. The other component, which certainly is important, we start with elementary and then move to our secondary, is looking at when that comes. So as you can see, the training options have not been announced yet. So as Dr. Anderson mentioned, those specific ones that we could choose, which of those trainings, that will be released to us in October, and then we will begin to look at registration for that in January. And then to highlight our committee process, what we did similar to math is studied one component that was different because of the READ Act. There were rubrics that MDE released that led us to resources that were highly aligned to the science of reading. And so we looked at all of that as a committee. We also then attended presentations on all of those highly aligned resources, narrowed that resource list down, and then teachers were in that process of field testing this year, some specific curricula. And we're working to make that final decision again after our first semester. So teachers excited to be able to have their hands on that piece and to watch that learning through the students' eyes, and then make some really good decisions after that. And so again, just that visual piece you can see, and just to highlight a little bit different, again, these are those highly aligned resources. There's a couple components that is grouped into. So the knowledge building you can see is a K5. And so that piece looks at our reading, our writing, our speaking, and our listening standards. That component covers all of that, and that we are looking at arts and letters. So that's the specific highly aligned curricula we're looking at. The phonics is in 2 different curricular areas. So it's a K2 and looking at our functional phonics and UFly. So those are 2 different resources that we are having teachers look at. And then our word study, which is that higher elementary component for 3rd through 5th, is functional phonics. So you can see we have 42 classrooms across K5 in each of our elementaries represented, the exception of Loyola Del Lago because they are utilizing a resource already, and that piece has not actually been laid out for what that would look like with that specific carryover or layover for immersion learning. Again, another timeline to be able to see where that piece is as that reminder of when our READ Act was passed, and then looking at developing our local literacy plan as well as our professional development. So starting that piece in 24-25, finishing that here in 25-26, and then looking at that part 2 for adding our secondary component when we know more about that specific training. And then the note also, just like in math, our new MCAs will be based upon those 2020 standards. So looking at that MCA 4. Full implementation in 26-27 for that resource, 27-28, and then 28-29. So looking at those student achievement math, MCA goals. And then just a couple pieces from our field test next steps. So we have, just like Dr. Anderson had mentioned, letters that will be to families in those classrooms that are field testing any of those resources, and then a survey that will be sent for families in mid-year for that feedback. Our Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee having those formative check-ins and feedback throughout the fall, and then opportunities to view those resources here at the District Service Center at elementary buildings during our conferences, and then that QR code available to be able to submit that feedback.
All right, any questions for any of the 3 presenters? Mary.
Starting with graduation rates, you know, working with the Bridges Area Learning Center, I know that there's students who do take the summer to graduate and fill in some extra credits. Is that reflected here as not graduating within 4 years, or is that reflected?
Thank you. I believe that the summer, if you graduate in the summer, that counts towards that graduation rate. If it goes into the fall at all, then it does not count in the 4-year.
Okay, thank you. That helped me understand the numbers a little bit better. And then with the math, one of the things that I know the state did when they did the science and the math almost at the same time is they tried to align those two, because the push was to have a certain level of science by freshman year that required Algebra 1 for many of the new science standards. But I'm seeing the high school focus on Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and geometry. And if I remember correctly, science was supposed to try, the science standards were supposed to try to push that down into the middle school area. Did that change? Because I know the science wasn't finalized at that time.
I think the state is and has tried to do alignment work. My understanding in our system is we haven't had capacity to do those, all of those areas with, for example, budgetary constraints. So there's a reason for that delay. There is going to be some science work done this year too, but it's, again, it has to be subservient to literacy and math because of our capacity.
I know that was definitely subservient to literacy, and that was a larger discussion than I've ever seen before at the science standards, because the science had a lot to do with reading and understand the vocabulary of the words, and they found that the literacy was lacking to be able to do that. But concurrent to that, we had the science math continuum going on, and I know that the science program, the science standards were really pushing that earlier ingestion of Algebra 1 into college Algebra 1, which is sometimes considered Algebra 2, and then the geometry and the trig in there just in the beginnings in order to balance it out for what they wanted in their high school science. So what I'm hoping the state does not come back and then make us rework something that's kind of...
I think there's work to do in science regardless of what the state does. I think the state has this ideal integration, which is built on increased rigor in all of these areas, because the world demands that our kids know as much and are able to do as much as they have ever been able to know and do. So I think there's work to do. And for me, my first read on our system is this has been a function of our capacity. And so I think we're going to continue to be invited to balance what is the state asking, prioritize what that is, and then take it in chunks so our system is able to digest.
Okay, thank you. And then with regards to the detailed FastBridge, and I understand FastBridge is formative, is not supposed to be there to measure because every quarter is going to be different and students are going to ingest and understand the information at different levels. But I am wondering, was there any patterns particularly, I mean, you mentioned bridges, was there any patterns in the middle school math that were noted?
In terms of the middle school math implementation, since this was year 1, we didn't do the concerted as concerted of an implementation study as we did for bridges, because that was in year 2. So it's 1 year behind in terms of implementation. I don't think we have, first of all, it was year 1, so there's a lot of different components going on. You actually most often see an implementation dip in year 1 of a curricular implementation. So I think the combination of us not having the detailed study yet of what does implementation look like at the middle school, and then corresponding that with FastBridge, but I would say we don't know at this point whether where that's trending for middle school.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you. I just have some questions about the SAVIS implementation at the high school, and wondering. I know you come in, Director Anderson, playing catch up here, and just wondering if you can help us understand. Maybe was there 2 curriculums that were you know, typically we do a pilot and we have multiple different curriculums so that we have an understanding of which one is the best fit for our community. And so there's a couple things. I feel like we're kind of, how do I say, moving forward with having had missed possibly some steps. And as well, the board has not had any visibility to what SAVIS is. And so how do we as a board ensure that this curriculum meets the values and the viewpoints of our community and the needs of meeting our strategic plan of academic excellence. And so I'm wondering if we're going to take a deeper dive into this curriculum at the math and when we would be doing that, because we haven't done that so far, just so you know. This is actually the first time that, as a board, that we're hearing about this particular math curriculum and this pilot, so.
Well, good. Thank you for that question, and I appreciate that. We always want to, you know, round out the process as completely as possible. So situated in the context of this is phase 3 and situated in the context of trying to do vertical alignment and making sure our system's ready for the state year of implementation. Perhaps that informed some of the steps we've taken to get to here. I can't speak to every step, but what I know is when they looked at those curricular resources in 2023, the 612 roster of committee members and teachers looked at 5 different curriculum areas, 3 of which were more germane and in the view of our high school team members, more aligned to the direction that they thought would get us in alignment with the state. And so the high school team looked at least 3 sets of resources informed by things like, among other things, what other districts are adopting as well. So on October the 6th, we'll have a chance for the TLAC committee to take a look and get updated in ways. And I don't know if the board would have, in historical situations, had access before the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee. I can't speak to that. I don't know if that's your normal process, but certainly it's important to me in October to, as one of the key first things that we do in TLAC is to do a key move to try to do the community feedback in conjunction with making sure the materials are available, that letter to families, like I said. But other districts that have looked at this resource and went ahead with adoption include, but aren't limited to, Orono, Matamidi, Inver Grove Heights, Shakopee, South Washington County, Edina, to name a few. And that's my first look at it, but we'll continue to want to look at what we've done, look at the processes that we've come to appreciate, make sure it aligns with the values of our community, and give opportunities for feedback.
And that kind of goes back to also to the reading curriculum. So I'm just wondering, you know, like I said, when are we going to, as a board, have a better understanding of the curricular resources that have been selected based on like the one, you know, why is there not multiple pilots? The other question I have that kind of goes back to this, the READ Act. So I thought we were using Foundations, which is a phonics-based program, and how long have we been using that?
Yes, we do use Foundations, but Foundations was not reviewed by the state because it didn't meet, I don't know the details of the criteria, but it wasn't reviewed because it didn't meet the minimum criteria to go into review. So that is not classified as a highly aligned curricular resource. I think that it has a lot of really good components, and I think if it had been reviewed, I think you would see that there was at least some alignment. But the other component was, as teachers went through the OLA training, I think there was more identification of areas where it isn't as aligned as some of these other materials. I don't believe we've gotten clear guidance on the financial component of choosing something that's not highly aligned, but it's not classified in that category. There was a lot of back and forth over the course of a year of whether it would be considered or not, and it's not. So it's not on that list.
And I'll just add to that response, that was a big source of contention throughout the state. Many districts had adopted some early literacy materials, you know, years before the law was passed. And I think the challenge is that, you know, districts have invested millions of dollars in curricular resources, and to the point of reimbursement. So So essentially, if we find that there's value add and it's making a difference, because it's not one that MDE has approved, we wouldn't be able to utilize any REDAC reimbursement process. You could use it, but you're using it on your own dime, so to speak. So I think that's the challenge that we faced with that. Also, districts like us who did their preliminary studies around, what their resources, the outdated resources to bring in additional tools for our students. Again, a lot of that work happened pre-REDACT, and then when REDACT came in, it really kind of changed the direction of where the state was going in terms of their standards. And so even as districts took on their own initiatives, now kind of doing some course correction to get back towards, the science of reading that's now within statute. So I think that's the challenge that we've had. In terms of the resources coming before, again, this is some areas that we're going to be exploring in field testing. The ones that we have with literacy, the reason why we have a variety of different options is, one, it's the ones that the state has approved, but two, the resources that we have at our disposal to adopt and align to REDACT are available to us. High school, the challenge that we have with multiple resources is that how the high school is structured in terms of their overall schedule. One student could potentially, over the course of their career, have 4 different curricula. And so you don't typically want to have multiple field tests going on, and the days of vendors giving free resources are gone. They're now charging. So when we have to be, optimizing our resources, I think leveraging what our colleagues have kind of field tested, juxtaposed to the field research that many of our math team has done, we merge those two together to say, okay, if we only have the financial capacity to explore a singular resource, and we also know that subjecting a student to, 3 or 4 resources over the course of the year because of how the subjects are differentiated with the schedule, this is where the team has landed. That's not to say that maybe second quarter we couldn't find, if there's something that is an alignment that comes at a very reasonable cost, that we could bring in or find someone who may have looked at that similar resource juxtaposed. But I think our team has done that ahead of time. Particularly with some of the exploratory pieces last year and talking with their colleagues around the Twin Cities, and some of the research that Dr. Anderson shared of who's adopted and kind of gone full implementation with this. This particular resource is one that we believe from a stewardship standpoint meets the high school standards, but also gets into more of that concrete sequential math. That was some of the feedback that we heard, on the middle school level. So that's leaning more in that direction. So that's another reason why our team kind of felt that that would be a best place to begin looking at least for first quarter.
Charles.
Dr. Thomas, I appreciate what you said, but you're only giving us one option.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're only going to give us one option, then just tell us to vote on it.
No, that's not what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not
But you're telling us, you understand that, right?
Yep.
Dr. Anderson, who just walked in the door, said that there's years of other things that everyone else has done, right? We have no idea what everyone else has looked at. You're not giving us anything else.
Yeah,
You're asking us to trust you, but you're not showing us everything else that you've done. You're only, right? We can trust you so much. We have gone down this road before with other curriculums that it's only been one. We're not asking for, 35 things, right?
Right.
We're just saying, hey, give us the process, give us the names of the things, at least in my perspective, right? I'm only one.
Sure.
Right? I want to know the process of what you've gone through the last 2 years, right? Or what Dr. Anderson has is trusting his process to be, especially for our ninth graders who, as Jay-Z said, right? Last year they dipped, right? Because it was their first full year of CPM. Now ninth graders, last year's eighth graders, right? First full year, they would have dipped. Now they're coming in the ninth grade. Now they're coming into a brand new curriculum. Am I correct?
I apologize. I wasn't speaking specifically to that cohort. I was just saying in general, I would need to pull up the grade level data again to pull it in front of my.
It would have been the first year of CPM.
Yes, I'm just,
Right.
I was speaking generally to the fact that in research that we know that an implementation dip is a common
Correct.
occurrence. I wasn't specifically speaking to the, but yes, I mean, in terms of, it was a little bit all over the board in terms
Right.
of by grade level in math
100%.
last year, yes.
Absolutely.
There was some ups and some
Right,
downs.
So now we've got a cohort who's got a brand new thing, and now they're getting another brand new thing. How are we making sure that these students who are just getting bombarded over and over and over, and as you said, right, they're in high school, so they can just be getting thrown left, right, and center, new curricula. How are we making sure they're getting taken care of if we are not going to make sure that we are going to give them the best thing? And I don't think only giving us the opportunity to see one curriculum, right, and only testing one curriculum, and you telling us there's only one curriculum available
Well, yeah,
is
let me,
the
yeah.
correct option.
Sure. So Director Johnson, I'll share this. What we're looking at for this first quarter is sticking with a singular implementation, or not implementation, a singular field test at one time, to not have 4 different ones happening simultaneously, because kids with their schedules will move across at the high school level differently than they will at the elementary. And so after first quarter, based upon the results that we're seeing, we can have discussions with the board, obviously, you know, throughout that quarter, to say, is this trending in the direction that we would like to see, or is there something else that we would like to take a look at? But going full bore out, you know, with like 5 curriculums or whatever, just hypothetically at the high school level from a resource standpoint, I think we would be more prudent to go quarter by quarter to see, is that going to get us the results that we're looking for based upon, you know, the formative feedback of our students. So I think after our first quarter, to have some conversation with the board and say, here's what we're finding. And from the discussion with the board, and you were saying, well, you know, based upon what we're seeing, we might want to explore something different as another co-pilot field test. That's an option that we can have that discussion. But just within the quarter, we want to stick with a singular resource at a time for better foundational consistency for our learners. And to your point about subjecting kids to new resources, even if you weren't changing resources right now, exploring resources at the high school level aligned to the new standards, coming out of middle school, they're going to get a battery of new curriculum anyway because they've not seen this. So it's not just unique to a curricular change. They're going to get something new at the high school level anyway. So now, so I would just caution us to think in those kind of chunks, so that we're not over-investing with resources that we may not have to, and you know that we have limited resources to contend with. But certainly could go.
One other thing we can provide is, and I think to your point, it would be helpful to see, there was quite a few resources at the high school level that were automatically eliminated due to some very baseline criteria. So one set of curricular materials were not fully ready for all high school levels. There was a commitment to do one resource across all high school levels, so that eliminated some of the resources. There was at least 2 or 3 that were not aligned to Minnesota state standards, so they're national curricular resources that didn't have an explicit Minnesota alignment guide, and that's very difficult for the teachers to then have to map that each individually themselves. And there was at least one resource where it required students to have what's called a consumable, so a notebook that students got every year, and that is a very high ongoing cost that we are not able to support, so that automatically eliminated that resource because we were not able to have that ongoing payment for the consumables. So there were some very, I think it's a little bit of a situation where there was just a number of resources that were looked at extensively that kind of had these deal breakers that we weren't able to move forward with for those reasons. So the main ones are state standards alignment, cost, and then not having the full package of the all of the different levels at high school available to us.
Could I just suggest something? Is it reasonable, since we are going to be doing a bit of a deeper dive in a couple of weeks, would it be reasonable to have maybe a little broader explanation as to why 2 or 3 of these, specifically didn't fit? I would enjoy that from a member of staff.
Committee first, right?
Yeah, so what Dr. Anderson mentioned is that we were going to be bringing this forward, but again, I think in terms of the discussion, in terms of the now what, I mean, this is part of the conversation, that we want to be able to have with the board so that you can actually see some of these and be able to explore some of that as well. So I think, for the September, we could definitely introduce the actual materials themselves. But also have some of our staff who were part of that initial just review, kind of in the field research, as to where in this case, the high school team kind of centered. And then obviously this is something that we'll deeply unpack at the TLAC committee. And then from there, October, I don't know what time that, October 6th or whenever it was, we would have additional feedback too from that discussion that would come with the board. All this culminating into kind of a full quarter's worth of really kind of looking under the hood to say, is this really getting what we want to see happen for our students? And then making some determinations from there to say, okay, if we want to embellish more in a particular content area, maybe it's only one strand of math at the high school level, we're going to keep this resource, but we're going to find something else just for algebra. Okay, then what resources are we going to, what will we shift to make that investment then to make that second quarter, this plus this little rider on the side for a particular course.
Okay.
I would just like to add, I have a student in high school, and my understanding is that there are some teachers who were supplementing with this Savas math, the curricular resources. We saw some of their the items purchased. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of the teachers' feedback, because some of the feedback that I found interesting, just talking to some of the teachers, is that they felt that Savas was too rigorous, and that perhaps kids coming through our system we're not prepared for this particular resource. But that kind of goes back to where is the alignment with our middle school resources? And are we giving those middle school resources enough rigor to prepare them for a curriculum that has been adopted across the state by different districts, Orno and the ones that you listed? So I would like to understand the alignment piece of it as kids are going through Bridges, CPM, not having advanced math in the middle school. How are we truly meeting the needs of all students with math in general within our district? So I look forward to that discussion.
All right. We good for tonight, or?
I have several questions.
Good.
I guess I don't know if we want to save some for study session, but just, I guess a few things just kind of related to that too, is I was going to ask about the curriculum for both advanced and also special education. Would the special education math be changing, or would they continue to stay with Math 180, I believe they're on, or do we?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any plans to deviate from Math 180 as the resource, primary resource.
Okay.
Well, and again, that's correct me if I'm wrong, that is the students, and most students in special ed are still in regular coursework, and that is an additional intervention program. So there's no intention of changing that intervention program, but all students in special ed are, not all, most students in special education are still receiving the general education curriculum as well.
Okay.
So it's not completely separate, it's kind of a Venn diagram.
So they would be starting to use Savas and whatever we're using at the high school in a combination of both of some.
Depending on the specific situation with the special education student, yes, that would be possible.
Can you also elaborate on the comment about the trends and teachers who have highly implemented, or I think you said use the highest fidelity with Bridges, have seen the largest fast bridge growth and upward MCA trends? So I guess why wouldn't we have this highly implemented in all of our classrooms, or are there Like, how do you know that? Where did that bullet come from, I guess?
Yeah, we conducted a very structured review of implementation of bridges in the winter of last year to look for very specific implementation components. I think it can be complicated to understand why it does take 3 years to fully implement a resource, but it's understanding the resource at a depth and also to understand the flow of how things work. Typically, in an implementation situation, you would have quite an extensive component that is on the job, job-embedded professional development, which is also coaching. We obviously are very lacking in our resources for coaching. So in terms of the in-the-moment, co-planning, co-teaching, coaching aspects of implementation, we've not had that structural component really available to us. So we're trying to do our best to understand implementation from a systems level and understand what areas we can better support in terms of implementation, and that was the purpose of that study. In collaboration with principals and peer coaches, last year they all observed math lessons for their Danielson observation, QComp, formal teacher observations. So we have quite a bit of data from them because they all observed math lessons. And we just at this point, based on we have a specific document that shows what would implementation look like in year 1, 2, and 3. We know which teachers are kind of further along that progression in different areas. And so there's, based on a whole host of reasons, there's certain teachers that are further along in that implementation process. And so we're identified some of those early adopters and teachers who are really implementing it with the highest fidelity. And those are the teachers that we identified, obviously not to share publicly, but the ones that we were able to cross-reference their data with and saw some really, really impressive results even after that year 2, knowing that as a system, it usually takes 3 years. And again, that's a system where there's a lot of that ongoing coaching and professional development. I think oftentimes teachers need support in how to problem solve something, and it's really hard to do that theoretically without someone there to help guide them. So we do know from a variety of sources which teachers are kind of in that highest implementation fidelity phase, and we're able to look at their student outcomes, and there's a very consistent trend there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have other questions about data, but I think we're probably going to deeper dive in the study session. Also, and so I think just to clarify, the October 6th teaching and learning, both the math curriculums and the reading curriculums will be presented in that committee. Is that correct, or we're just talking about math? Okay. Great.
All right.
And then just, can I clarify, are we doing a deeper dive on the FastBridge and the MCA data? Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Yeah, so the 22nd will be a deeper work session to go into the data more and kind of analyze some of the trends that we're just kind of forecasting for you all tonight. Also for our ability to have some deeper discussion on and as a result of that, this is what we're doing. I think that was some other components that we really wanted to focus more on, and, you all also kind of focusing on, and what do you need from the board, right? And so we're going to be focusing more on that conversation, as well. So the data is here. We wanted to just make sure you had that well in advance, particularly those who just need to have some time with it and kind of looking through. I would invite that conversation as well between now and the 22nd. There might be some opportunities for, Dr. Zumbush and I to sit down with any of you who might request as well, just to get some of that background knowledge where we'd be available, because some people they'll just jump right in and start looking at their own trends, et cetera, and have lots of questions. Some of you will just wait for the presentation, and so we wanted to make sure that we are accommodating multiple learning styles with that.
And do you have an update on when the science MCA scores will be released? I know it's a moving target, so.
I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but I also know that MDE did change their exact date for math and reading. So just so everyone is on the same page, this was the year where science transitioned from MCA 3 to MCA 4. It takes MDE quite a bit more time to look at that and to do their item analysis and identify which items worked and didn't work across the state. So that will be later this fall. I would say that the estimated was somewhere around October, but I don't have a specific date. And if there is a specific date, I'm not 100% sure it's going to stay. So yes, later this fall, we will have science data with that updated MCA 4, which is kind of the first batch of all of the MCAs that are now transitioning from 3 to 4.
The last thing on, I'm sorry, not sure what the last point on the MCAs too. You all know from the state, the last legislative cycle, that the legislature is now interested in a task force that will be reviewing our state assessment. Is it the right assessment, et cetera? And so that team, I think it's closed and compiled. But as we learn more about what's happening overall on the measure of MCA, we'll definitely keep the board abreast of that as that progresses, any kind of changes with that as well.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, so my other question was around, are all of these curriculums included in our budget already for the upcoming year and any costs around that and implementation?
Yes, we have that included in this year's budget. So the SAVAS and the resources at the Elementary READ Act are the ones that we're looking at that we kind of pre-planned for.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the comment around like the criteria and understanding that, because I think things like, you know, the consumables that you talked about being a criteria, it would have been really great as a board for us to be able to help make that decision, right? If that's the best math curriculum, even though it costs a little more, you know, maybe there's just trade-offs there, I don't know. So it would be helpful to understand like what was budgeted and how we can help with those decisions and priorities from my perspective, so. Okay, I have a lot of questions around the data and curriculum, but we can table that until
Thank you.
Study session.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, moving on to 25-26 school board goals. As per our discussion 2 weeks ago, I'm presenting tonight a list of 3 goals. I want to take the opportunity to thank publicly Directors Mason and Olsted, especially Director Olsted, for taking copious notes during our discussion, which got us about 80% of the way there before we even sat down to chat. So that was super helpful. So just very quickly, we came up with 3. Goal A really wants to center around us governing according to the strategic plan, and you can read the paragraph there, but basically how that would work is we're going to commit, for now, me as chair, whoever is chair in the future, along with Dr. Thomas and the vice chair, trying to map out when it makes sense to discuss any individual pillar. I don't want to just throw something out there because we haven't talked about it in a while. I want it to align with something on the calendar that would naturally be the time we talk about it anyway. That, and so trying to get that mapped out, as well as administration beginning to continually highlight things that we're already doing that do tie back to the plan, just for board awareness. So if, for instance, a simple example would have been tonight, the additional 9th grade coach, paid for by our booster club. That would be a simple idea of optimizing resources, and just to call that out so that we are continually aware of how the system as a whole is using that as kind of their North Star. Goal B centers around perhaps getting back to a model of assigning board members to buildings or areas. In my previous times on the board, the math worked out perfect. We had 7 buildings and 7 board members. That's not the case anymore. So I've started to sketch out how it might look, and I'll send that out to you guys this week and kind of give you an idea what I was thinking. And then, you know, we will have some board members with more than 1 building and some with only 1 if we decide to go ahead with this. So, and then I think I want to try to make this goal more of a get us into the buildings in pre-prescribed times, 3 times a year, nothing overly, I don't want to take everybody's time up here, but I want to begin to develop these relationships, build trust, learn, all the elementary schools and our secondary buildings. They're, it's a different staff, different culture, different leadership, all working toward the same goal. So I think it would be helpful for us to have connection with a building or two, depending on how that all shakes out, to kind of understand better what's going on inside the buildings, which then in turn, over time, should help us better inform our decisions. And then, so that's kind of what goal 2 looks like. And then goal C kind of goes back to the discussion we had earlier about trying to maybe normalize how the committees work, and get back to that thing it's been a constant struggle for all my years on the board. How do we better communicate in between meetings, not just here at the table? And I think having a board member who's on one of the 3 board committees, as well as a community member, send us their feedback from individual meetings. I would think it would be helpful to run it through the chair of that committee, one of the 3 directors first. Just what I heard, and I off base here, is just so we're clear. And then that information is sent to us in between meetings, so that when a policy comes through, the policy committee, we've already kind of understood where the discussion has been. I think then we're just better informed. I think we can make better decisions. And then I kind of like the idea of maybe using the student survey sometime in the future to plug in some questions revolving around the board and what the community is thinking. I think those would be helpful. So again, I want to give a shout out to Jess Olstead for really getting us almost all the way there. We had a good discussion. It only took about 30 minutes or so, and we kind of cleaned up some language. So these are my proposed goals for the year. I wanted things that we would be tangibly involved in, not things that we don't actually control. I wanted things that we'd have our hands on. And I think that other goals that are more district-wide, we can certainly talk about. But for these specific goals, I wanted things that we'd be hands-on, we're responsible for, and accountable to. So I'll open it up for questions or comments.
Can I say one? Sorry, can I say one thing, because it's bothering me? Under goal A, I just need to fix some verbiage, if you all don't mind. The beginning of the year school presentations from principals should be the state of the schools addresses, and then I'll change state of the schools to state of the district.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
it just
That's fine.
bugs me.
Before we start discussion, I will entertain a motion to accept as presented.
Sorry. So made.
By Director
Second.
Johnson.
Second.
Second by Director Mason. Questions, discussion?
One of the things that, just doing some more research on school boards and their goals, and I think it actually aligns really nicely with the number C, goal C, and the Studer survey. I'd actually like to add a 3rd bullet point there, where the board has access to the stakeholder survey results unredacted. And I think, other boards read the Studer survey comments from the teachers and from the parents and the students, and they read them unredacted, and it gives us as a board, I really truly believe, the tools that we need in order to make important decisions. And I know, Dr. Thomas, you've made the comment that we read every single one of those comments, but I want the community to understand that the board as a whole right now does not have access to those comments. They're highly redacted, and I know that other boards do have access to them unredacted. And so I truly believe that if we had access to those surveys unredacted, we could fully understand what are the needs of our teachers, what are the needs of our stakeholders, and our students in our district. So I would actually like to add that as a bullet point under the Studer survey, is to have access as a board to the unredacted comments to fully understand the needs of our district.
Comments?
I don't agree with that. First of all, when we've done Studer surveys before, within this lane, if we keep it here, this whole thing was about getting feedback on the board. So if we keep it there right now, with the Studer survey to ask questions of the community about the board, we've always received those back to the board unredacted since we are the topic of them. What we have never done is release the names of the people who have given the the feedback, the names, even the IP addresses, their email addresses, or anything like that, for obvious reasons, for blowback, for whatever. And I think that's fair to people filling out the survey. I also think it'll encourage them. But we have always, when we have done it before, we've always received it unredacted. I believe that when you were on the board before, we used to get really some blunt comments.
Sure. Director France.
But this goal C here is about the survey to the community, adding the questions about the Board of Education back into that. And then any other topics outside of that with other surveys that the district does, et cetera, is probably not in scope here anyways.
Okay.
Director France, I want to clarify, this is a second, this is in addition to the deliverables. So of course we would not, the district would redact the names of the people filling out the survey. That would only make common sense. What I'm referring to is when we have received the teacher comments, they will say things like, teacher A, and then it's fully blanked out, it's fully redacted. We cannot have an understanding of what the needs of our teachers are if their comments are fully redacted. And that's what I'm referring to. And other boards, just because we've done something in the past is not necessarily the right way of doing things. So other boards, Minnetonka, I mean, I can give you a list of, I know board members who it's common practice to receive the stakeholder survey comments, that's why we do them, so that we can better understand the needs of our community, receive the unredacted comments, not from who they're from. We just receive the comments so that we can understand what the needs of our communities, the community and our teachers and our students are in our district. So is that clear?
Can I just?
I just want to add, I'm agreeing with you for this survey. We've never received before redacted comments coming back to the board because we're the subject. So, but we've never received so if we're in agreement about the names and all that to stay redacted, then I agree that we should use the Studer survey to survey the community about their comments about us as a board, and we should receive those back unredacted. The only thing is if they mention a student or something like keeping with data protection rights of if they accidentally make a comment about their student or their name in there, that should be redacted, since we shouldn't know who is doing it. And we're supposed to protect the names and identities of kids anyways under 18. And if we're protecting the who it is, as you agreed to, then that would be redacted out. But the actual comments coming back to the board when we have done these surveys have never been redacted to us. We've always gotten them. If they mention a board member, if they mention a specific event, or if they go into any detail, we've always received those back totally unredacted. The only thing that's been redacted is the name of the person doing it. And again, per everything else, if they mention a specific person under the age of 18, then that is usually redacted per data practices or data privacy.
So I know we haven't done the board Studer surveys since I've been on the board. I know it was done in the past. So I would think you would be in agreement then of if we were to receive the stakeholder surveys, which is the annual stakeholder survey where we review the teachers' comments, we review our parents' comments, that those would also come back to us unredacted, and we would follow data privacy laws. So if a student's name was in there, the student's name would be redacted. But I'm talking about full paragraphs that are redacted. And if you've taken the time to look at them, you would understand what I'm referring to.
Just a point of clarity. So the who of the sender and the recipient. And I just want to be clear on that. So the board, you know, if I'm a staff member and I'm saying, I don't like this staff member for X, Y, Z reasons, the board doesn't need to know the staff member to staff member names, but you're trying to understand the issue that might be happening at a tool. And so the reason for the redaction of, you know, a line or so would be the inferences made that a staff member, in this case I'll just use a staff stakeholder survey, could have context written that clearly identifies the only music teacher in a building, right? And they're talking about the music teacher. So that's where the redaction has happened, to protect the recipient as well as the sender. Outside of that, the information has been available. Anything about me has always been available because I'm your employee. So that's never been redacted. But I just want to be clear, the boards need to know staff names to understand what's happening in a school is irrelevant, right? It's the theme of what is being discussed. It doesn't matter if you know it's teacher X and teacher Y. You just need to know the issue. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct, but that's not what we're doing in practice. If you've had have you had a chance to look at what the board looks like that is sitting in Christie's office?
There's context that would allude to it's this particular staff
But that's
member that
important
I can
for the
isolate.
board to know.
And it's
so
similar to like our data reporting. We wouldn't report on certain data if the N size is too small that you can deduce, oh, it's these kids at this school. And so that's what we're trying to protect is the identity of the sender and the recipient, if you will.
I think knowing that the board is the client, following Minnesota Data Practices Act to a T is really important. And I would question then why are other districts doing it differently? Why are we not being transparent with our board?
Well,
And so can we pass this along to other board members? This is something that I would like to write on here. I think it actually would help us as a board be better aligned on what the needs of our district are, and I'd like to hear from other board members on this as well.
And I'm going to ask the chair that we are talking about stuff that has to do with the board only here.
Correct.
That's extending the scope of this.
It's not actually, Chair, Director France, if you would pull up Minnetonka School District School Board goals, the first thing they talk about is reading their stakeholder survey in order to determine their goals. I truly believe that's perhaps why we as a board have a trouble aligning on goals, because we as a board do not have the tools necessary for us to be able to do our job effectively, which the biggest tool we have is our stakeholder surveys. So you can look it up right now, pull it up on your board, Minnetonka School Board goals,
I'm very
and that's
familiar
exactly.
with them.
Oh, I
Yes.
know you're very
And
familiar with them, so am I. And so I'm surprised you don't know that, Director France.
So here's what
Let's
I'm.
move on.
Go ahead, Jess.
I think part of our annual stakeholder survey is to allow families to be incredibly honest, open, vulnerable, which is, of course, what we want when someone fills out any kind of survey. I personally, this is me, I have no interest in, I'll read the redacted version to get a general sense, and I think that gives me that general sense. I don't have any interest in getting any kind of gleaning from any kind of comment. It would make me uncomfortable, to be honest. And if other districts do it, in the words of Mel Robbins, let them. I mean, I don't care. I don't care what other districts do. I serve this one. And I don't have any interest in looking through. I mean, I've seen it. It's massive, and I appreciate that. And if that's your thing, that's fine. I am not dismissing anybody who wants to look through that stuff. It's fine. I have no interest, and I don't want to infer anything from any kind of comment. These towns are too small. And I don't want to run the risk of knowing who I could be reading about, or, a teacher I could be reading about. Now, do I want general context? Of course I do. Of course I do, because that is what we should be getting. But I don't think as a board goal, if there's a place for it, we can have another discussion maybe. But as a board goal, I don't think it belongs here, and I wouldn't do it. So that would mean that I wouldn't be meeting that goal.
And that's kind of where I was getting. I'm not necessarily saying that this conversation about to what extent we get information from the Studer survey. I want to get back to maybe one of my earlier comments. I want these goals to reflect hands-on board work that we are doing. Now, if we want to have a discussion to the extent we want to receive the general Studer survey and how the results are going to be presented to us, that's a valid conversation. I would agree with Director Olsted that I'm not convinced it's a board goal.
because we're doing the survey already. So it's not, this isn't, these are, in a lot of ways, things that we're gonna start doing to maybe move in a little different direction and to honor the strategic plan. I don't think that it belongs, again, since we're not hands-on, we're not actually conducting this, I'm not convinced it belongs on our goal sheet.
And Chair Wade, I appreciate that. I know that has been brought up as a future agenda topic, the whole student survey and having more transparency, perhaps the unredacted version. It has come up as a future agenda topic, so perhaps you can help us understand as a board when that would come to the table for a discussion so that we can have that proper discussion. I do believe it aligns with a board goal, because if we were to read the comments, it would help us be able to, like I said, allocate resources that are needed and all the different things that we need to do as a board. So I disagree with that, but I'd also like to hear your answer on when you plan to bring that to the board for a future agenda topic.
Since we redid the board policies, I have not received a request to go over this. If you want to email me that request.
Well, it was pending from previous. So
I'll have to go back and look at my notes.
That's okay.
If I did forget that,
I think
I'll get
Director
back to you.
Mason actually brought it up.
Yeah, I mean, I would appreciate that as a future subject. I know we talked about it in the past. I mean, I think I understand hopefully where you're going with this. Like, I think the deliverable from a goal perspective to review the survey, I think, is important, as far as we don't know what that feedback is without reviewing it, right? So obviously, I don't want personally identifiable information, but certainly the full comments are helpful where that's pulled out. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what's in there, what's not. I've only seen other surveys, and I know they were heavily redacted and difficult to follow.
And again, I'm trying to, I present these in an effort to not put things on here that we've already been doing. I'm trying to chart a little bit of a new course, maybe a little bit to try to honor the work that was done in the community, as it relates to the strategic plan, and getting us more hands-on in the buildings where appropriate, and scheduling with the specific building leadership, and then trying to improve communication. And so I think if either or both of you want to send a reminder, email me as far as the feature agenda topic, I would more than happy to take that under consideration. So,
and perhaps we just add the word review to the last sentence, Director Olstead. I don't know, to review and gather feedback.
Oh, if we just
Yeah, just kind of make the statement that we're reading
that we are
survey.
actually reading. Yeah.
To review and gather feedback. I have down to review and gather unredacted feedback. Should I add that word?
specific to the board, yes.
Yes.
Whatever those questions would end up being.
Okay, got it.
Charles?
Yes, and you have finance town halls up here. Just take off finance and just put town halls, and then you can have whatever kind of town halls.
True.
You
That's
want,
fine.
right? It could be finance, could be, hey, let's just have a town hall and talk about.
Yeah, because that.
I think I just put that because we've had the
had
finance
those,
specific
But
ones.
then we can have it for anything,
Okay.
Easy enough.
I just had a couple other
Yes.
minor things. At the top, can we put 25, 26 goals, given we're still in 25?
Yes, we can.
Just for clarity. And then my only other kind of, I don't know, I was reading this again, and I guess in the first top paragraph where we're saying as they relate to each plan pillar, I think it's also used in the first bullet. Would it be more appropriate to say each plan priority, since that's how they're listed on the strat
Sure.
plan?
I
I
want
don't
to
know if
match
that
the language,
matters,
sure.
but just to align language.
Say that again?
Sorry, so the second sentence on KPIs as they relate to each plan, can we say priority instead of pillar?
Yep.
Just to align with the strat plan, and I think that pillar word is used in the first bullet too.
So cross out plan and pillar and change it to priority.
Plan priority or each priority, either one.
I think leave plan in, replace pillar with priority.
Yep, got it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just have a question
Sure.
under the number A, deliverables. You know, a lot of these I see as being, you know, presentations from admin, which is great because that's going to give us a better understanding of what's going on in the schools, whether it's the beginning of the year, the built plans, state of the district, state of the schools. When I look at things that we can review to, how do you say, make improvements in our district that align to our strategic plan, I think of things like reviewing truancy rates or the safety and security in our buildings. I know ASIO just did a really amazing deep dive on the safety and security of their district with their board. Also like behavior rates and what's being done to improve the behavior in our district. And so those are some of the things that, while presentations from our school, I love to always hear more about what's going on in the school, and I think us actually being in the schools as a goal, some of us are more than others because we have kids in the schools or whatever. But I like the, you know, being assigned the schools to be able to enhance those relationships with the admin in those schools that we're assigned to. But I think taking a deeper dive into some of these other topics, I would personally like to have on the agenda, and they align to different pillars on our plan, especially like the safety and security one.
And again, this isn't, I
know they were just examples.
They were just examples, not meant to be exhaustive.
I like leaving it open because we're going to get data at different times and there's going to be different emphasis.
Can we put something like other
topics aligned to the strategic plan?
Something,
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that.
other topics as needed or requested by the board?
Yes, and I'd like to, what you said, Chair White, in the beginning about making this kind of, you know, something that we have control over too, and emphasizing that we're not going to take one meeting and say the next meeting we, you know, want the administration to just do A, B, and C. I'd like to have something on here where we can plan it out through the year and give administration enough heads up to be able to actually build a robust report. And also know when the data is available, because sometimes we ask for something and the data isn't available right then. So kind of give just a high level, do something per each priority, not pillar, but priority, and schedule out through the year, have it reviewed with the board, and therefore give the administration enough of a heads up to be able to prepare a robust presentation in a timely manner.
And that would be probably my first go around with Dr. Thomas and with Amy, is to try to calendar this out and see where the four priorities might just fit during the school year. We might only do one of the priorities once during the year, maybe that's where it fits, and others might, you know, show up more often. Trying to balance it out as best we can, but that would be my first order of business, is to do exactly that. Let's look at the calendar, and then eventually, I'm hoping this kind of just becomes organic and just becomes the way that the agenda is produced, with that in the back of everybody's head, as long as this plan is in place. But getting to that last bullet point, I mean, it's like other topics / information as needed or as requested.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And then that way that the board, as individual board members, we can email the chair and the superintendent to give different topics that do align to that strategic plan.
Okay.
And then you can develop that calendar. I like that as well, so.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had a couple things.
Sure.
And the first sentence, just the, to use the strategic plan as a guiding star. While I understand the guiding star, I'm just wondering, you know, another word could be as the compass, as a filter. I'm thinking, you know, if we, a possibility to say, to use the strategic plan to guide our interactions with each other, with staff, and all stakeholders. The strategic plan as a guiding star to govern all discussion, I think we could maybe make that a little bit more descriptive by saying, using the strategic plan to guide our interactions with each other, with staff, with stakeholders, however that looks. I just feel like the first sentence is a little bit loose, maybe. I don't know if it's just me. Obviously, I go with the will of the board in that. Also at the end of the first sentence, this is done in the interest of honest and open planning and providing support where needed. I just had, tell me more.
I think what we were trying to get at, and you guys can interject if you remember it differently, that we just don't want information for information's sake. Part of the reason we want information is to say, okay, we have a need at building X that's not being met. Is there anything that we can do? I mean, that's kind of my heart behind all of this, is getting us the kind of information we need to make the decisions that need to be made, and so I think that's kind of where we wanting to make sure we're not just here to absorb, but we're here to react out of that knowledge to the best interest of the district, as we discuss and plan.
So interest of honest and opening planning as a board team, and providing support to the district where needed. I guess I just wanted clarification on exactly what we were talking, because it's great to me. And while at first read, I'm like, oh, that sounds great, I also want to know what that exactly means. And so, again, going back to the first part of the sentence, it's like using our strategic plan to guide our interactions. To me, that it's using our core beliefs, it's using the 4 pillars, right? So that helps me understand, you know, what we're using the strategic plan, not just as a guiding star to govern all discussion. So it's just a little bit more.
So what are you suggesting?
My suggestion is to use the strategic plan as the guide, or as to guide our interactions. And again, with each other, with staff, with all stakeholders. You know, if that's our living, breathing document that we are using from the board to the classroom and everywhere in between, using that with our pillars in mind and our core beliefs in mind, that's helpful. It gives specifics, and it gives more life to the strategic plan. So that was the first part is where I had a specific suggestion, and then the you know, again, telling me more for the last part, the interest of honest and open planning, providing support where needed. Is that honest and open planning as the board team? And is that providing support to the district staff? To, you know, and I think calling that out is helpful. Because, you know, where are we open, honest and opening, you know, I don't really plan with senior leadership.
Right.
So I think calling that out a little bit more specifically would be helpful.
And injecting the board into that as us, like you just did.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, it's like done in the interest of you know, is it again, I'm asking, is that what the heart was here of the board's honest and open planning? Because our honest and open planning happens here at the table. I mean, if obviously we get to have side conversations with our board team, but we also have to adhere to open meeting law and not doing serial meetings and all of those things. So, you know, naming that I think is important.
Trying to craft something
Yeah,
on the fly here.
I understand your intent, Director Bullion, and I understand it, but I also think that a lot of what you're trying to capture is in our strategic plan when we talk about respect and unity and stewardship and accountability within our core beliefs. So I actually like the way the first part is written. It's very plain and simple to use the strategic plan as the guiding star to govern all discussion. I mean, that is pretty simple, and I think muddying it with, it's not muddying it, but adding in things that are already in our strategic plan, I think I don't know, I think it takes away from some of the things that are also in our strategic plan, like academic excellence and community partnerships. And so I like the way it was written, so there's my feedback on that, so.
I agree with Director Boyan. The strategic plan is very high level. It's not discrete at all. But using it, I like the term you came up first with, compass. I believe you said compass.
Yes, compass or filter.
I like that. It's a little too dramatic, I think, no offense to Director Olstad. I think I love the language, but as a guiding star,
guiding
I just think
light,
as a boundary or a compass for our discussions, but it doesn't provide governance. It is not discrete enough to be a guiding star for everything, but it should be the boundaries from which we work in and we direct our discussions in, such as the priorities. Those are, what we discuss should fall within those priorities and relate to those priorities. So I like that, and I do agree with you on the statement when you kind of made your question on the first sentence. I liked
I
it.
do appreciate the simplicity. I am a less is more. I definitely appreciate less being more. So I can appreciate like all discussion. I actually listening to that, I agree with that. That they don't need to be listed out. I appreciate the compass or filter as well. The guiding star is a good thing, but everyone might, I don't know. I agree. And not, my desire was not to recreate this because I really do appreciate the work that was prepared. Also, with that very last sentence, I think having descriptors and, planning of, is this the board's planning, providing support to the district, like naming that, I think is important. Because, or is it providing support to the superintendent? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's where I'd like to hear what board members.
Could
I agree
could
with
I,
that. Like, I
could
had
I
that
suggest
underlined
that,
actually, too.
would it kill the opening paragraph to scratch everything from this is all the way to the end? Is that even needed?
I kind of agree with it, because like, I appreciate what you said, Director Bullion, about open and honest is here at the board table, right? And we are supporting our one employee, which is our superintendent. So I don't disagree with scratching that last sentence.
And it's not, really has nothing, to me, it's not what it really says, is it really necessary? Is it too much of a description when what's really important is what we're gonna deliver on underneath?
I agree. I like that a lot. I would be in favor of scratching from this on.
I agree.
So can it read, to use the strategic plan to guide our interactions, working with district leadership on regular reports to the community on KPIs as they relate to each plan priority. Is that?
That was perfect.
That's perfect. I didn't get it.
Good thing it's recorded.
All right, hold on.
We're gonna cross out
816.26.
To use the strategic plan.
to guide our interactions, crossing out as the guiding star to govern all in discussion. Just kind of replacing one with the other.
That's good.
Are we good?
Yep.
All right, thank you, everyone. If there's no other,
Are we do we need to make amendment to a motion to amend per the changes we discussed?
well, this was a draft for discussion, so can we change it on the fly? I'm not sure how
Well,
that
you made a
works.
motion to approve it as is, so.
You're right, I did. All right.
I have one more comment.
Okay.
Hopefully it goes faster. As far as the redaction and adding a bullet point for unredacted, I don't, personally, I don't need that. But I did have using Studer survey to ask questions about the Board of Education to gather feedback from community. I wanted to understand more, like, is this to use the Studer survey to understand what they think of the Board of Education? Like, tell me,
Yes.
okay. Yes.
Just that we're,
We haven't really done it in the last 2 years. I know it was done prior to us being on the board.
so just adding us to the mix of questions that are asked during the survey, and then we would take those specific questions related specifically to us. We'd get those unredacted so that we can properly review. I like adding review, to review and gather the feedback from the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
That's good, thank you.
All right, well then, we have a motion and a second on the table. I'll entertain a motion to approve the changes. Is that right? To amend the previous, amend the previous motion to include changes as discussed.
So made.
By Director Johnson,
Second.
by Director Atkinson. If there's no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries at 7-0. And then we will, we have a motion and a second on the table to pass the goals as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That carries 7-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, a couple of quick items before we get to the closed session. Next on the agenda is adoption of a resolution authorizing the school district to conduct business on Christopher Columbus Day / Indigenous Peoples' Day, which this year is the second Monday of October. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So made.
By Director Franz, second.
Second.
By Director Johnson. If there's no discussion, this does require a roll call. Director Olsted.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Atkinson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director Fritz.
Aye.
And Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye, that carries 7-0. And another resolution appointing election judges for the special election on November 4th. Is there a motion to approve that?
So made.
By Director Bullion, second by Director Johnson. If there's no discussion, this also requires a roll call. Director Olsted.
Aye.
And Director Johnson.
Aye.
Director Atkinson.
Aye.
Director Bullion.
Aye.
Director France.
Aye.
And Director Mason.
Aye.
And aye, that carries 7-0. And we don't, just needs consensus. We have to canvass the special election sometime between the 7th and the 14th of November, and it's being proposed that we just start the meeting on November 10th, canvassing the election. Is that cool with everybody?
Yep.
Okay. Then we'll mark it down. No policy this evening. Are there any administrative reports we haven't already heard from? Nothing? Okay. Any board reports?
Yes.
Director Olsted.
Wanted to, I mentioned it in our study session the last time, but wanted to formalize here that the Southwest Metro superintendent goals have been approved by the Southwest Metro Board. Very, very aggressive goals, but great goals. And Dr. Horton is just 110% in. So that was a great discussion that we had at the board meeting. We went through all of our policies for the year, so those are all reviewed. It was a very long list, but we got through them. And I did want to mention, on a sad note, the Southwest Metro family lost one of their students last week, as one of the Elevate online students, Maya. And so just wanted to pause and make sure everybody is aware of that. So it's hard to lose hard under any circumstance to lose a student. So wanted to tell you all that. And then on a, sorry, that's a horrible transition, but the delegate assembly for District 13, those nominations can either be nominated or you can self-nominate for District 13 delegate assembly. The deadline is September 30th, with voting happening in October and then all the action happening beginning of December. So if anybody's interested, I know I'm interested to do another 2-year term, but I obviously want to open that up to other people if they're interested. So just wanted to memorialize that here. So thank you.
Charles.
Patrons of the Arts and Activities is having their first meeting of the school year, which is on the 11th, 7 o'clock. at I just call it the glass classroom right across from the concession stand there at the high school. So it is welcome to everyone. LABC has theirs next month in October on the 20th. So I'll say that again. Congrats to the football team for obviously winning. They'll play Rosemount this week, and then we're back at home next week.
Alrighty. Lisa.
Two things. We have our first Finance Advisory Committee at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning and welcoming some new committee members. So I'm excited for that early morning meeting tomorrow. And then I just personally want to give a shout out to Christy Mussman, she's still here, and Liz, and whoever else was involved in the back to school celebration at the high school. It was phenomenal and just so much work, and I'm sure coordination with vendors, and it was so fun to see the PTCs out there. And so I really just think I've loved to see how that has grown over the past couple years, and what a great example of Laker pride. So thank you and kudos to everybody involved in that.
All right, thank you. Amy.
None.
Mary.
This Friday is the first scale committee county meeting after the summer break, and we will be continuing on discussing about fire services throughout the county and some services that actually have to do with school districts and how they participate in our security programs. And of course, there's an open forum and is also on Zoom. It'll be this Friday from 7:30 to 9 a.m. in person at the Link Center and at the Midwalk Sioux facility, or you can get online on a Zoom meeting.
All right, thank you. And Jessica.
No, I was also going to say kudos to everyone that put all their time into the back to school night. I thought it was a great turnout and a great event, so thank you for that. And also just generally back to school last week was fantastic for me and my family, and I think from everyone I've heard very positive things, and I know a lot of time goes in from the teachers on those nights also, so appreciate that. But that's all.
All right, thank you. And we have a student council report as well.
Yep. So school started this past Tuesday for freshmen, and our Link crew helped those freshmen get accustomed to a high school schedule. The next day, our 10 through 12 started, and our MinCaps program is starting a new chapter now that they're no longer stationed in Lakeville, and so all their classes are at the high school now, which is nice. Fall sports have become underway, and students are excited to compete, cheer on their fellow Lakers. Like we just mentioned, the football team had a game against Egan last Friday in our Tackle Cancer game, and we'll be playing against Rosemount for our Salute to Service game this Friday, so that'll be fun. Boys and girls cross country, they're off to a great start. Had a great performance in Anoka last Thursday, and then along with girls and boys soccer, they're playing at Lakeville North right now, and so hopefully a good outcome is over there. As for activities, we had the activities fair about a week and a half ago. Plenty of students joined new clubs, found new friends, met new students, and they also, that was for picture day as well, and so students got their pictures taken. And then student council, we're currently planning homecoming and actually have our senior sunrise event coming up this Friday, and so we're very excited about that. And then to close off with our activities, our Junior Optimist Club had over 150 members join these past 2 weeks, and so they're excited to, get going with community service for the school year and, just being great Lakers.
Awesome. Great, thank you. All right, future events are as listed, and I will now entertain a motion to move into closed session for the purposes of discussing certified negotiations. Is there a motion to enter into a closed session?
So made.
All right. Amy and Charles. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Let's take 5, and everybody can clear out. And
Teaching and learning committee.